In this episode, I'm trying to be serious about leadership. Steve Jobs sticks his foot in the toilet water, and you're wondering if this is clickbait. It is, but it's 100% true. Steve Jobs wasn't your average leader. He was a hurricane with Wi-Fi. Today we pop the hood and look at how that engine actually worked, part by part. Grab your coffee, kill the lights. Here we go. Lesson 1. Hire people smarter than you and learn to eat crow. His quote is famous, but almost nobody actually lives it. We don't hire smart people to tell them what to do. We hire smart people so they can tell us what to do. In 1984, when he put together the Macintosh team, he hired PhDs while he himself had dropped out of college. There were weeks when Jobs walked into a room with a genius idea and walked out 40 minutes later, totally silent, because a 27-year-old engineer had shredded it in 3 sentences. That stings. It hurts like hell. But that's exactly why the Mac had beautiful fonts and Windows 1.0 looked like it was drawn in Microsoft Paint. Real question to take home. When's the last time someone on your team made you swallow an entire idea without pushing back? Seriously, when was that?
If you want to hire great people and have them stay working for you, you have to let them make a lot of decisions, and you have to be run by ideas, not hierarchy. The best ideas have to win.
Lesson 2. Innovation needs controlled friction. Jobs believed eternal peace equals eternal mediocrity. At Pixar's building, he had them build only one big bathroom on the main floor. One for 600 people. Why? Force people to bump into each other, talk, argue, solve problems in the hallway. It worked. Toy Story came out of legendary fights between animators and engineers. Leadership isn't making everyone love each other. It's making everyone respect each other enough to fight for the right idea. If your meeting ends with everyone agrees, way too fast, be suspicious. Probably nobody's actually taking any real swings.
You know, one of the things that really hurt Apple was after I left, John Sculley got a very serious disease. And that disease, I've seen other people get it too. It's the disease of thinking that a really great idea is 90% of the work. And that if you just tell all these other people, here's this great idea, then of course they can go off and make it happen. And the problem with that is that there's just a tremendous amount of craftsmanship in between a great idea and a great product. And as you evolve that great idea, it changes and grows. It never comes out like it starts, because you learn a lot more as you get into the subtleties of it. And you also find there's tremendous trade-offs that you have to make. I mean, there are just certain things you can't make electrons do. There are certain things you can't make plastic do or glass do. And as you get into, or factories do, or robots do. And as you get into all these things, designing a product is keeping 5,000 things in your brain, these concepts, and fitting them all together in kind of continuing to push to fit them together in new and different ways to get what you want. And every day you discover something new that is a new problem or a new opportunity to fit these things together a little differently. And it's that process that is the magic. And so we had a lot of great ideas when we started, but what I've always felt that a team of people doing something they really believe in is like when I was a young kid, there was a widowed man that lived up the street. And he was in his 80s. He's a little scary looking. And I got to know him a little bit. I think he might have paid me to mow his lawn or something. And one day he said, "Come on into my garage, I want to show you something." And he pulled out this dusty old rock tumbler. And it was a motor and a coffee can and a little band between them. And he said, "Come on with me." We went out to the back and we got some rocks, some regular old ugly rocks. And we put them in the can with a little bit of liquid and a little bit of grit powder. And we closed the can up, and he turned this motor on. He said, "Come back tomorrow." And his can was making a racket as the stones went around. And I came back the next day, and we opened the can, and we took out these amazingly beautiful polished rocks. The same common stones that had gone in, through rubbing against each other like this, creating a little bit of friction, creating a little bit of noise, had come out these beautiful polished rocks. And that's always been, in my mind, my metaphor for a team working really hard on something they're passionate about, is that it's through the team, through that group of incredibly talented people, bumping up against each other, having arguments, having fights sometimes, making some noise, And working together, they polish each other. And they polish the ideas, and what comes out are these really beautiful stones. Yeah.
Lesson 3. Excellence is the minimum standard, not the reward. 1997. Apple is weeks from bankruptcy. Jobs comes back as a consultant and goes to Corning's factory to test the glass for the future iPhone 2005. He looks at the prototype and says, "This scratches way too easily." Engineer replies, "Nobody's gonna see it, it's just a back." Jobs says, "I'm gonna know it's there, and if I know, it's not good enough." 6 months and 30 revisions later, Gorilla Glass is born. He did this with everything. Screws inside the Mac that no customer would ever see were machined like Swiss watches. Because if the leader accepts good enough on the stuff nobody sees, the team ships almost good on the stuff everyone sees. It's a law of physics for mediocrity.
The minute I dropped out, I could stop taking the required classes that didn't interest me and begin dropping in on the ones that looked far more interesting. It wasn't all romantic. I didn't have a dorm room, so I slept on the floor in friends' rooms. I returned Coke bottles for the 5-cent deposits to buy food with. And I would walk the 7 miles across town every Sunday night to get one good meal a week at the Hare Krishna temple. I loved it. And much of what I stumbled into by following my curiosity and intuition turned out to be priceless later on. Let me give you one example. Reed College at that time offered perhaps the best calligraphy instruction in the country. Throughout the campus, every poster, every label on every drawer was beautifully hand calligraphed. Because I had dropped out and didn't have to take the normal classes, I decided to take a calligraphy class to learn how to do this. I learned about serif and sans serif typefaces, about varying the amount of space between different letter combinations, about what makes great typography great. It was beautiful, historical, artistically subtle in a way that science can't capture, and I found it fascinating. None of this had even a hope of any practical application in my life. But 10 years later, when we were designing the first Macintosh computer, it all came back to me. And we designed it all into the Mac. It was the first computer with beautiful typography. If I had never dropped in on that single course in college, the Mac would have never had multiple typefaces or proportionally spaced fonts. And since Windows just copied the Mac, it's likely that no personal computer would have them. If I had never dropped out, I would have never dropped in on that calligraphy class, and personal computers might not have the wonderful typography that they do.
Lesson 4. Leadership has to update, or it becomes a critical bug. 1985. 30-year-old Steve Jobs gets fired from the company he founded. Official reason: difficult to work with. Translation: he blew up at everybody. In 2005, same guy comes back. Launches iPod, iPhone, iPad, same intensity, but now with a remote control. He learned to ask instead of scream, learned to listen before judging. He didn't become nice, he became lethal, because now he was precise. If you're leading 50 people today the exact same way you led 5 people in 2018, you didn't level up, you became the Windows Vista of your own career.
My second story is about love and loss. I was lucky. I found what I loved to do early in life. Woz and I started Apple in my parents' garage when I was 20. We worked hard, and in 10 years, Apple had grown from just the 2 of us in a garage into a $2 billion company with over 4,000 employees. We just released our finest creation, the Macintosh, a year earlier, and I just turned 30. And then I got fired. How can you get fired from a company you started? Well, as Apple grew, we hired someone who I thought was very talented to run the company with me. And for the first year or so, things went well. But then our visions of the future began to diverge, and eventually we had a falling out. When we did, our board of directors sided with him. And so at 30, I was out, and very publicly out. What had been the focus of my entire adult life was gone, and it was devastating. I really didn't know what to do for a few months. I felt that I had let the previous generation of entrepreneurs down, that I had dropped the baton as it was being passed to me. I met with David Packard and Bob Noyce and tried to apologize for screwing up so badly. I was a very public failure, and I even thought about running away from the valley. But something slowly began to dawn on me. I still loved what I did. The turn of events at Apple had not changed that one bit. I'd been rejected, but I was still in love. And so I decided to start over. I didn't see it then, but it turned out that getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again, less sure about everything. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. During the next 5 years, I started a company named Next, another company named Pixar, and fell in love with an amazing woman who would become my wife. Pixar went on to create the world's first computer animated feature film, Toy Story, and is now the most successful animation studio in the world. In a remarkable turn of events, Apple bought Next, and I returned to Apple, and the technology we developed at Next is at the heart of Apple's current renaissance. And Lorene and I have a wonderful family together. I'm pretty sure none of this would have happened if I hadn't been fired from Apple. It was awful tasting medicine, but I guess the patient needed it. Sometimes life's going to hit you in the head with a brick. Don't lose faith. I'm convinced that the only thing that kept me going was that I loved what I did. You've got to find what you love, and that is as true for work as it is for your lovers. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do.
Lesson 5. Your flaws will lead if you don't lead them first. Steve Jobs knew he sucked at diplomacy, sucked at keeping things light. So he put Tim Cook next to him, the most organized, calm human on earth. Put Joni Ive to be the emotional heart he didn't have. Self-awareness isn't weekend therapy. It's war strategy. Because the flaw you hide becomes the crisis the whole company has to fix on a Friday at 7 p.m.
My third story is about death. When I was 17, I read a quote that went something like, "If you live each day as if it was your last, someday you'll most certainly be right." It made an impression on me, and since then, for the past 33 years, I've looked in the mirror every morning and asked myself, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I am about to do today? And whenever the answer has been no for too many days in a row, I know I need to change something. Remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life. Because almost everything, all external expectations, all pride, all fear of embarrassment or failure, these things just fall away in the face of death, leaving only what is truly important. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You are already naked. There is no reason not to follow your heart. About a year ago, I was diagnosed with cancer. I had a scan at 7:30 in the morning, and it clearly showed a tumor on my pancreas. I didn't even know what a pancreas was. The doctors told me this was almost certainly a type of cancer that is incurable, and that I should expect to live no longer than 3 to 6 months. My doctor advised me to go home and get my affairs in order, which is doctor's code for prepare to die. It means to try and tell your kids everything you thought you'd have the next 10 years to tell them in just a few months. It means to make sure everything is buttoned up so that it will be as easy as possible for your family. It means to say your goodbyes. I lived with that diagnosis all day. Later that evening, I had a biopsy where they stuck an endoscope down my throat, through my stomach and into my intestines, put a needle into my pancreas and got a few cells from the tumor. I was sedated, but my wife, who was there, told me that when they viewed the cells under a microscope, the doctors started crying because it turned out to be a very rare form of pancreatic cancer that is curable with surgery. I had the surgery, and thankfully, I'm fine now. This was the closest I've been to facing death, and I hope it's the closest I get for a few more decades. Having lived through it, I can now say this to you with a bit more certainty than when death was a useful but purely intellectual concept. No one wants to die. Even people who want to go to heaven don't want to die to get there. And yet, Death is the destination we all share. No one has ever escaped it. And that is as it should be, because death is very likely the single best invention of life. It's life's change agent. It clears out the old to make way for the new. Right now, the new is you. But someday, not too long from now, you will gradually become the old and be cleared away. Sorry to be so dramatic, but it's quite true. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary.
Now, the cherry on top. 100% true story, told by employees who were there and confirmed in Walter Isaacson's biography. Regular afternoon at Atari headquarters. An engineer walks into the executive bathroom to take a quick leak and finds Steve Jobs, pants rolled up to his knees, both feet in the toilet bowl, eyes closed. Dead silence. Guy freezes in the doorway, not sure whether to back out quietly or just pretend he saw nothing. Steve Jobs opened one eye, calmly says, "Cold water helps me think," and closes the eye again. The engineer decides he'll use the bathroom in the next building for the rest of his life. And Steve Jobs gets moved to the night shift, so he has less contact with coworkers. You don't have to be Steve Jobs. And please, don't wash your feet in the toilet. That's a lifetime ban. But you can steal 5 lines of code from his operating system and install them in your own life. Hire or surround yourself with people who humble you once in a while. Welcome the friction that creates clarity, not the kind that creates endless drama. Make excellence the minimum standard, starting with the very first pixel, first email, first line of code. Update your own version before the market does it for you. Own your weirdness fast before it becomes office bathroom legend. Now tell me in the comments, no filter, which of these 5 is the rustest in your leadership right now? Actually reply, "I read everything." If this video made you laugh at the absurdity, think about your own chaos, or both at the same time, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because we keep bringing the truths nobody puts in the corporate PowerPoint. Only with laughs in the middle so it doesn't hurt as much. No face, just truth. See you in the next dose. Take care.